Have you ever felt a twinge of frustration when someone simply doesn't get it? You've poured your heart into a project, but they still miss the point, leaving you to wonder, what's really going on here? We've all been there, frustrated by conversations where logic seems to vanish and where seemingly simple concepts become insurmountable walls. But what if I told you that these behaviors are strong signals of low intelligence? In today's video, we'll uncover 7 surprising behaviors that often reveal a lack of intelligence. But that's not all. We'll also explore why recognizing these signs can profoundly change how we communicate, whether we're dealing with colleagues, friends, or even loved ones. And how can we break this cycle instead of being dragged into it ourselves? But wait, what if the root of this misunderstanding has more to do with you than them? And can something as simple as one behavior actually transform the way you see the world? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might just see the world through a clearer lens. Will you be ready to face the truth? Stay tuned. Introduction: the mystery unveiled. Have you ever wondered why some people repeatedly sabotage their own success, even when the path forward seems obvious? Sometimes the answer isn't about opportunity or luck. It's about patterns of behavior that quietly reveal how a person processes the world. Throughout history, we've watched talented figures rise to incredible heights, only to stumble in ways that left everyone confused. The public often asks the same question: what went wrong? In many cases, the warning signs were visible long before the downfall. Low intelligence doesn't always appear as a lack of knowledge. Often, it shows itself through everyday behaviors, patterns in the way someone handles information, criticism, or responsibility. As we go through these behaviors, pay attention to how familiar they might seem. You may have seen them in coworkers, friends, public figures, or even in yourself. Because the real question isn't just who displays these behaviors. The real question is, what could these patterns reveal about how we think, learn, and grow? Behavior number 1: ignoring facts. One of the clearest behaviors that reveals low intelligence is the tendency to ignore facts, even when the evidence is right in front of you. This often shows up when someone refuses to acknowledge information that contradicts their beliefs. Instead of adjusting their perspective, they dismiss the facts entirely. In public life, we've seen celebrities and public figures confidently repeat claims that were easily proven wrong, only to face ridicule once the truth became impossible to ignore. But the real issue isn't simply being wrong. Everyone is wrong sometimes. The deeper problem is the refusal to update one's understanding when presented with new information. When someone values being right more than discovering the truth, their thinking becomes rigid. Over time, this rigidity damages credibility and relationships, and it raises an uncomfortable question: why would someone cling to a false belief when the truth is so accessible? Behavior number 2: overconfidence in opinions. Another common signal of low intelligence is extreme confidence in personal opinions, especially when those opinions aren't supported by knowledge or evidence. Confidence can be powerful. It can inspire others and create momentum. But when confidence exists without understanding, it becomes dangerous. Many public figures have demonstrated this pattern. They speak with absolute certainty about topics they barely understand, delivering bold statements that collapse under simple scrutiny. The problem here is not having opinions. Everyone has them. The problem is believing those opinions must always be correct. When confidence replaces curiosity, learning stops. New perspectives are dismissed before they're even considered, and that leads to a troubling outcome. The louder someone becomes about their beliefs, the less willing they are to question them. So the real question becomes, what happens when certainty becomes more important than truth? Behavior number 3: blaming others. The third behavior that often reveals low intelligence is the constant habit of blaming others. When mistakes happen, intelligent individuals usually pause and ask what they could have done differently. But those with weaker self-awareness often do the opposite. They search for someone else to blame. This behavior appears everywhere, in workplaces, friendships, and even public scandals. When a project fails or a reputation collapses, the individual quickly shifts responsibility onto coworkers, critics, or circumstances. At first, this might protect their ego, but over time, it creates a serious problem. If every failure is someone else's fault, there is nothing left to learn from. Growth becomes impossible, and eventually people start to notice the pattern, which leads to a powerful question: what could happen if someone stopped blaming others and started examining their own decisions instead? Behavior number 4: disregarding learning opportunities. Another revealing behavior is the refusal to learn or adapt. Some individuals become so comfortable with what they already know that they stop seeking improvement. They ignore feedback, dismiss new ideas, and treat learning as unnecessary. We've seen famous careers stall for exactly this reason. A once successful performer refuses to evolve, a public figure stops listening to criticism, or a leader ignores changing circumstances. At first, nothing seems wrong. But slowly the world moves forward while they remain stuck in the past. Opportunities disappear, relevance fades, and the gap between potential and reality grows wider. The uncomfortable truth is that intelligence is not just about what you know today. It's about how willing you are to learn tomorrow. Which raises another question. Are we sometimes choosing comfort over growth without realizing it? Behavior number 5, perpetual criticism of others. The fifth behavior is constant criticism. Some people spend an extraordinary amount of time pointing out flaws in others. They analyze mistakes, judge decisions, and highlight shortcomings in almost every conversation. On the surface, this can look like intelligence. After all, spotting problems requires observation, but there's often something deeper happening. In many cases, constant criticism becomes a shield. By focusing on other people's failures, individuals avoid confronting their own. Over time, this habit damages relationships. People become defensive, conversations turn negative, and isolation begins to grow. Ironically, the person who constantly judges others often ends up the most disconnected from them, which leads to an important reflection. How often do we criticize when understanding would be more valuable? When we step back and look at these patterns together, a clearer picture begins to emerge. Ignoring facts, overconfidence in opinions, blaming others, resisting learning, constantly criticizing those around us. These behaviors don't just reveal how someone thinks, they shape the way they move through life. Recognizing these patterns isn't about labeling people or judging them. It's about understanding the mental habits that can quietly limit growth, relationships, and success. And perhaps the most important step is reflection. Which of these behaviors have you noticed in others? And more importantly, have you ever noticed them in yourself? Because the greatest barrier to growth is often invisible. It hides in the small habits we repeat every day. But once you see those patterns clearly, something powerful happens. You gain the ability to change them and to see the world through a much sharper lens.